said, well, how do they know the UFOs are going to be there? And his answer was, he didn't know, but they have foreknowledge. And I asked him the same question, and he gave me the same answer, because the film follows my quest to meet this guy, and I've met him 6 or 7 times now, but he's now gone quiet on me. I've been trying to contact him because of some new information that I've got, but he hasn't been replying. But he gave me the same answer. I don't know, but they do. They know where these UFOs are going to be. Now, I've been puzzling over that. How the hell would NATO know where and when a UFO is going to appear so that they can target it? Now, you might have seen on a recent Rich Planet show, I featured this guy, Lee Martin. Now, he had a UFO sighting in the 1970s. Now, he's a miner from, well, not far from here, he lived in Vokru at the time he had the sighting. Now, there was another miner featured on the Rich Planet show who gave me an envelope. You might remember it. He actually gave me an envelope in this room. But I suspect now, I'm afraid to say, I don't know, that guy fabricated his account with the other miners in order to take the piss out of Lee Martin. And they've been pulling his leg for over 30 years about it, right? But I do believe that Lee Martin's sighting is a genuine sighting, okay? So this is where he saw the UFO. So he was walking along this road here in Vokru, where there's this mountain which overshadows the village. And he said a light came over. He thought it was a cloud initially, but it moved really, really fast. And then it came down and it landed on top of this hill. So I've done an artist's impression. He said it looked like an old-fashioned carriage clock. Now, when I put out information about this UFO sighting, I was contacted by another guy from the area. Let me just show you this map first. Lee Martin was walking down this road here in the early hours of the morning. He saw the thing land about there, okay? Now, I was contacted by a chap from this village here, Pontlotin, and he said, well, I've got video footage of a UFO from 2007, 10 years ago. Would you like to see it? So I went to see him. He's in the audience tonight, and he showed me the footage. So he notices this object hovering above his washing line in the western sky, and it sat there for over an hour, and it only moved slightly. I've checked all of the different angles that he was filming it from, and it's maybe moved a few degrees throughout the whole time it was there. Now, I have checked the astronomical charts. This was filmed on the 3rd of March, 2007. I've checked that Venus was not in that part of the sky, or any other bright objects were not there. So it's not a star or a planet. It's not a Chinese lantern because it was there for over an hour. It's not a helicopter. It's not a plane. He didn't know what it was. But he was massively intrigued by it, that he sat for over 20 minutes filming it. And he was going from his bedroom to his garden and then to another part of his garden. And he was so intrigued by it, he jumped in his car and he started driving towards it. But as he was driving towards it, it then vanished very quickly. Now, when he's zooming in on this object, I'm not sure that this diamond effect, when it looks like it's shimmering, I'm not sure if that is an accurate representation of the object or whether that's just due to the fact that the camera is not focusing correctly. But it was an anomalous light, and he didn't know what it was. So I went to his house, and I took some photographs from the bedroom window where he filmed it. So as you saw in the video there, the object is hovering mainly above this tree for over an hour. So I took this photograph, which you can see the tree is still there 10 years later. So I've identified the tree on Google Earth. This is the bedroom window here. This is the tree. So if we draw a line through the right-hand side of the tree and then extend that line onto the larger map, I've added 2 more lines in just for a little bit of error. We see that this is very close, possibly, to where Lee Martin had his sighting, which I find very interesting. Now then, I then had a look at an Ordnance Survey map. This road here is this one, and this one coming down there is this one. So we see here on the map, Cairn, C-A-I-R-N, which is an ancient stone circle, right at the point where Lee Martin says he saw his UFO land, and possibly underneath the point where the chap from Pontlotin filmed the footage that you've just seen. So I've looked up some details about this stone cairn. Apparently it's a denuded and robbed out ring cairn in the form of a circular platform about 14 meters in diameter and 0.4 meters high, partly stony and partly grass covered. there is a possible curve visible on the south side. So I went up there. There's very little left of it. It wasn't even worth taking a photograph of it, right? Now, it states here, religious, ritual, and funerary, right? The archaeologists do not know that, right? They rarely find bones at these sites. They're just guessing by saying it's religious or ritual, right? And notice it's quite large, 14 meters in diameter. It's quite a large stone circle. Now, I got talking to Andrew Johnson about the subject of stone circles, and we had different opinions on it. And we may well do a show on what the true purpose of stone circles are, because people say, oh, they're for keeping sheep in, or they were buildings, or they were for praying in, or whatever. But I really do think that for many stone circles, there's something a bit more to it. So Andrew pointed me to this book, Seed of Knowledge, Stone of Plenty. Let me just explain the premise of this book. In science books, when we see the Earth with its magnetic field, it's usually shown with a bar magnet running through it and the magnetic field lines coming out like this and going around the Earth, both sides of the Earth or all around the Earth. Now, that's not strictly true, because the side of the Earth which faces the sun has a different shaped magnetic field to the dark side. So as the Earth rotates, when it goes from light into dark, the Earth's magnetic field changes. Any electrical engineer will tell you that if you have a changing magnetic field, you will get electricity induced in anything that is in that vicinity. So the Earth's crust has what are called telluric currents, which flow through the Earth's crust, because of the changing Earth's magnetic field. This is real science. You'll find it on Wikipedia. Telluric currents, you can measure them, right? Okay. Now, those currents, when they flow, they will flow according to the conductivity of the rock through the Earth. When you have an electric current set up, it will itself generate its own magnetic field. So you'll get a magnetic field going around it with the current going that way. That will then modify the Earth's magnetic field. So what happens is you get anomalies in the Earth's magnetic field during dawn and dusk at certain points on the Earth, according to what rock is there. Now, here's an example of one. So this is in the US. So this magnetic anomaly here in the Earth's magnetic field will occur for a certain period at certain times of the day. So a geomagnetic contour map of a Native American rock chamber in Kent Cliffs, New York, showing a negative magnetic anomaly right at the open doorway typical of such structures. This anomaly will electrify parts of the air as it enters the chamber. So what these researchers have done, they have been to hundreds of sites of stone circles and chambers, right? And they have found at many of these sites, they find these magnetic anomalies. They've built their stone chambers on magnetic anomalies, right? Now, the reason that they build these stone chambers in these particular locations, according to the authors of this book, is that they would use them to make their seeds more fertile. So they would put the seeds in there, and as it says here, the anomaly will electrify parts of the air as it enters the chamber. Now, there is research being done which proves that you can affect a seed's, how well a seed performs by using electricity or electromagnetism. You might say, well, hang on, we're talking 4,000 years old here for these structures. How the hell would they know that there's these magnetic anomalies appearing on the Earth at certain times of the day? Well, the authors of this book claim that certain people are very electrosensitive. Some people are more sensitive to electromagnetism than others, and they would use these people to seek out these areas and build their stone chambers there in order to improve the yield of their seeds. And it's not just one or two chambers that they found this with. Many stone circles, they find these naturally occurring magnetic anomalies. And these magnetic anomalies will have been there probably for millions of years, occurring at certain times during the day. So we come back to our Vokru map, right? We've got possibly 2 cases of UFOs hovering over this area, and we've got a stone circle there. So if we go down the premise that that stone circle was put there because there's a magnetic anomaly there, and this is something on my list of things to do, I need to go up this hill and I need to take measurements at various points to see if there is a magnetic anomaly at certain times of the day. And do note, you saw there the UFO being filmed. It was at dusk when it was getting dark at the Terminator. And I think Lee Martin's sighting was at dawn, right? So let's just assume that this stone chamber was built because there's a magnetic anomaly there. What about the UFOs? The ancients knew about the magnetic anomalies, so they put their stone circles there. perhaps the UFO also knows about the magnetic anomaly, but is using it for another reason, not for seeds. I don't know, maybe the aliens have got seeds in their UFO that they're, but perhaps, is it some sort of getting energy from there, or is it a portal? I don't know, but is the UFO benefiting from some sort of magnetic anomaly? And the other thing that I haven't said yet is that the 3rd of March, 2007, when that UFO was hovering above that hill, is the night of a total lunar eclipse, right? So does the position of the Earth and the Sun and the Moon affect the magnetic anomalies? Does it enhance them, perhaps? All right. Now, if you consider what I've just explained, let's say someone maps out all of the best magnetic anomalies all around the planet, and perhaps on certain nights they're much higher in energy, right? And that NATO know which ones the UFOs are going to appear at. So perhaps this explains how NATO have worked out how they have foreknowledge of UFO activity. So it's just a hypothesis, okay? But I am going to go up that hill and take some measurements to see if we've got magnetic anomalies at dawn and dusk. Okay, now let's come on to this film now, because I have got some new information that I'm going to go through. As I said, this guy worked in this special unit, and he told Derek Goff and myself about various different cases. This is a representation of 2 bodies that were found on the Brecon Beacons. So what's alleged to have happened is that a vehicle was parked in a lay-by in a place called Llambedda, not far from Crickhowell. A young couple were abducted from the vehicle in their seats. So when the military found the car, there were no front seats in there, where the lights were on and the engine was running. So the military took the vehicle away, they took samples, and then they started a search, which took 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the bodies were found, and they were found just south of Talabont Reservoir, right? But the military bagged them, and then that was all covered up, and they had the classic mutilation injuries. Okay, here's some of Derek Goff's notes from 1997. We see here that the military went to the car, the engine was running, there was no one there, there was no seats in the front. They took the car away, and they took samples from the ground. 2 weeks later, 3 kilometers away from where the car was found, 2 bodies, blah, blah, blah. Now, I've since found out, by the way, this is news articles that I have correlated with this case, and this has allowed me to determine the probable date of when this happened. So yeah, I've since had new information that the bodies were actually just south of Talabont Reservoir, which is 13 kilometers where the car was found. Now, the reason why I'm explaining all this is because of the date. So the bodies were, the couple were abducted on the 20th of August, 1990, according to the military source. So 2 weeks after that is the 3rd of September. 3rd of September, 1990 is when these bodies were found up there on the Brecon Beacons. And there have allegedly been more than just this case on the Brecon Beacons. Now, in the film, the military guy explains that this military facility is used for UFO tracking and possibly for UFO targeting. So this is 5 miles northwest of Sennybridge. You can find it on Google Earth, right? You see here there are trees being built which prevent you from seeing in there. This is, you can drive along this road. It is a military road, but the public are allowed along there, but you're not meant to stop your car. Now, there's a concreted area in this facility here, and there's 4 posts in the corner, which our military source claims as part of this weapon. He also says that there's a radar dish, I don't know where on the facility, that comes up from underneath the ground at night, and it rotates, a bit like an airport radar, and that finds where the UFO is, and that there's some weapon system, non-ballistic, that can actually target the UFO and cause it to come down to the ground. Incredible claims. So the research that I've been involved with over the last few months is to try and verify these claims about this military facility. So I've attempted to find out what its true purpose is. So this is the first article I've been able to find, which is an article from before this facility was built. This is in the western fringes of Munard Ebond, it's called. So this is Brecon and Radnor Express, Thursday, the 29th of November, 1990. So this is just 8 weeks after when the bodies were found. Secret plans to site huge radar masts on Ebond Hills. So this is talking about proposals to build that military facility that our source claims is a UFO-related facility. MP drops bombshell. MP for Brecon and Radnor, Richard Livesey, dropped a bombshell this week with the disclosure that the Ministry of Defence is secretly planning to site a massive naval communication system on the western fringes of Mynyddig Eppant. It was on Tuesday that the Welsh Liberal Democrat leader revealed that up to 4 skyscraper radar masts, some 1,500 feet above ground level, are to be built on the Sennybridge military ranges as part of an intelligence network for the Trident nuclear submarine fleet. So only this one MP was giving out this information. So he had a source, probably in the MOD, that had told him that they were going to build this facility. But they told him that it was just a Trident communication system. So in other words, it's nothing to do with UFOs. It's a communication system for Trident. Now, this MP is quite annoyed in this article, and he's saying, well, why are you building a Navy communication system up on the Brecon military ranges, Army ranges? Why don't you build it near the ocean or near the sea, on Navy land? And these masts are 1,500 feet high, 4 masts. That's what they're proposing to build in this article. So this is Richard Livesey here, who got this information somehow. Unfortunately, he died in 2010, so it would have been really good to speak to him, but we can't do that, unfortunately. So, so we've got a news article appeared on the 20th of December 1990 titled "Authenticity of Radar Masts Plan Challenged." So there's other MPs who are criticising Richard Livesey, saying, no, he's talking rubbish. They're not secretly planning to build anything on these Army ranges. One of his political opponents has challenged the claim made by Brecon and Radnor MP Richard Livesey that the Ministry of Defence is secretly planning to site a massive naval communication system on the western fringes of the Sennybridge Army ranges. This week, the prospective Conservative candidate Jonathan Evans stated that he had received an assurance from the Secretary of State for Wales, David Hunt, there is no such proposals on Mynyddig Eppant, right? So the Secretary of State for Wales hasn't even been told, a member of the government. So this tells you that Richard Livesey had secret information. Okay, not about building a UFO tracking facility, but about building some Trident communication system. So Richard Livesey then starts making a bit of a nuisance of himself. On the 10th of January 1991, the minister fails to allay fears over masts. So he starts asking questions in Parliament whether the MOD or the Secretary of State for Defence has changed his plans to site naval radar radio masts on Her Majesty's land on the Sennybridge Range in the Brecon and Radnor. So he's then given a reply. A requirement for new defence communication facilities is under consideration, but no decision on location have yet been taken. So they are now admitting that they might be building one somewhere. So then 2 months later, the MOD comes clean at last over Eppant Range masts. So this is the 14th of March 1991. The government admit, yes, we are going to build something at that facility. It's official. The Ministry of Defence is considering the Sennybridge military ranges as a site for 4 massive communication masts as part of a NATO intelligence network for the Trident submarine fleet. Isn't that interesting? We've got that word NATO, which is the title of my film, UFOs and NATO. Okay, so now let me just explain what these proposed masts look like. This is the skyline of London. The tallest building in London is the Shard. It's 1,000 feet high. So if you were to put one of these radar masts next to it, that's what it would look like. So you could see why the MPs and the local council are getting annoyed that they're going to put 4 of these masts in an area of outstanding natural beauty there on the Brecon Beacons. Now, let me just also explain the reason why they need to be this tall is because it's a VLF station, very low frequency. You need huge masts to transmit low frequency radio waves. The reason why they need to be so low frequency is so that they can penetrate through the ocean to speak to a submarine, right? This is a one-way communication system. The submarine can't send any information back, right? But there are several of these VLF transmission stations around the world, and they all have these extremely high masts. So here's an example one in Western Australia. These masts are 1,270 feet high. This station runs at 19.8 kilohertz. They have to be this size for very low frequency because normal radio waves won't travel through the ocean. It's got to be low frequency. This is a photograph of that facility during the day. We can see the masts. You can see this one is built next to the ocean, and nearly all of them are built next to the ocean. This is a diagram of one. Here's one in the UK. This one has 13 masts, 745 feet. It's in Cumbria. This runs at 19.6 kilohertz. As you can see, built near the sea. This is one in Germany. 1,157 feet high masts. You'll understand why I'm telling you this in a second. Now, if you go on the website smeter.net, you will find many of the world's VLF stations listed. Now, I've been through this entire list and Googled all of them and trying to get photographs of each one. Every single one of them, 1,000-foot masts, right? You can't communicate with a submarine unless you've got huge transmission masts. So, on the 28th of March 1991, this article is just all about how the council are going to oppose these plans, and they're making it awkward. And a very interesting article pops up 6 months later. Sensitive material missing after raid on MP's office. So this is Richard Livesey, the guy who somehow had information on this facility before he should have. Questions were being raised this week whether a weekend burglary at the constituency offices in Brecon of Liberal Democrat MP Richard Livesey was politically motivated. Describing the break-in as sinister, Mr. Livesey revealed this week that £6,000 worth of computer equipment stolen in the raid contained sensitive material. He believed the intruders, who did a very professional job in gaining access to the premises, considered to be very secure, were carrying out a special mission. The thieves were not a bunch of amateurs, but knew what they were looking for, said Brecon and Radnor, Member of Parliament. So was someone, perhaps connected to the MOD, breaking into his office to find out how the hell, who is his source, where we have this leak from, and possibly, does he know more? Does he know more about the purpose of this facility? Okay, and here it is. So as I said, these 4 posts are on the corner of this concreted area. Now I'm just going to show you some Orden survey maps which show that the posts or the masts were put up in the 1990s. Here's a photograph that I took of them. This is present day. Right, this is a present day Orden survey map, and you can see these are the trees that you saw in the other image. That's the concreted area where the posts are, or the masts. Here's a more detailed Orden survey, and the 4 masts are marked by these 4 dots. As I say, that's present day. If we go back to 1989 Orden survey, you see they've actually got the facility prepared, but there's no detail of the masts. 1996, still no detail of the masts. If we go to 1998, we see that the concreted area is there, but no masts. 1999, we have masts. So the first appearance of the masts on Orden survey is in 1999. Now that doesn't mean they were put up in 1999. It means they were put up at least in 1999. So this facility was constructed with the masts in the 1990s. So I think the reason why I'm presenting this is to show you that they are talking about the same facility. And that facility is on the western fringes of the Munard-Epping range. So they are talking about the facility. And this is a photograph that I've taken. You don't hang around too long when you're there. So here's another image. So you can see that the masts are actually connected with wires. This is a CCTV system. Here's an aerial view from Google Earth. So you can see the 4 masts casting shadows here. Here's another photograph that I've taken. Again, you can see wires connecting two of the masts. Now here's a close-up of the bases, which are extremely robust if these are just transmitters. Now, you'll notice on this Google Earth image, there's a scale here, 10 meters. So I'll be able to work out the distance between the masts. And now that I know the distance between the masts, using this photograph, I've worked out the height of the masts, okay? So I've now produced an isometric engineering drawing of one of these masts. Here it is. They're 44 feet high. There's no way that this is a transmitter for a Trident communication system. I cannot speak to a submarine, right? And I'm not convinced that these are even transmitters. They're some sort of mast, but I'm not convinced it is an aerial. But let's say it was an aerial used in what's called quarter wavelength mode, which is a common mode. You calculate the frequency around about 5.5 megahertz, which is the low end of the HF band. There's no way that that signal could penetrate through the ocean to a submarine. Now, a friend of mine is on a radio comms forum on the internet, and I gave him some of this information with photographs of the masts, and he posted it on a Radio Buffs forum just to get their opinions on what this might be. The first guy said, oh, they're lightning conductors. Then another guy said, no, they're radio beacons. Someone else chips in, they're long-range artillery comms antennas for field army training. Then another guy says they're multi-directional aircraft tracking. No, another guy says, it's HERTAS, which jam aircraft locating finding equipment. Apparently, someone said, it's known by some as the telephone exchange. Then another guy pops up, and he says, no, you're all wrong. It's a NATO Trident communication submarine system. And he then posts a link to one of Richard Livesey's parliamentary questions with the MOD's answer, confirming that it is a Trident communication system. So everyone on the radio forum then says, oh, well, that's it. And then they start talking about something else. We've solved that one. It's just for Trident. And they all agreed, right? But I can tell you that it can't be. It can't be. In my opinion, the government have lied about what they're going to build. Now, just forget the whole subject of UFOs for a second. That in itself is worthy of note. That the government have told everyone that they're going to build 1,500 feet high transmitters for their nuclear Trident program, and what they've built is this. I don't know what it is, right? It's 44 feet high. It's not, that cannot communicate with Trident, right? So, you know, it's built on army land on top of a hill. It's not near the ocean like most of these VLF transmission stations are. So it is something completely different in my opinion. And I do think this proves that the government have lied. And here's how the four are laid out. So what could it be? Now, you saw that there was wires connecting some of them, and it is possible to have what's called a wire antenna. So you will have two posts. Sometimes you attach it to a building, and the wire itself is the antenna. So in this case, the wire would be about 40 meters long. So even if that was used in quarter wavelength mode, you're talking 1.87 megahertz. It is slightly lower frequency, but not much. Some people have said, oh, well, they're used as 12th or 16th wavelength, right? No matter which way you look at it, it's not a Trident communication system. It's nowhere near big enough. So it's something else, in my opinion. So what could it be? I've had a few thoughts on it. One suggestion is that it might be a phased array. If you have a single transmitter and you apply frequency to it, the energy will dissipate outwards like this. If you have 2, 3, 4, or multiple transmitters and you apply the same frequency, would phase shift them so they're slightly out of sync. If you do it right, you can create a beam. So the energy doesn't dissipate in all directions, and you can focus that beam. You can point it at an area in the sky and focus it. So this is what HARP is. It's a phased array. So is this a phased array? I don't know. Like I say, I'm not even convinced that these are radio transmitters. They look far too robust to just be normal antennas. So we see that there's wires attached to them. Is it the case that those wires are used to suspend something which we don't see? Something which is not there, which perhaps they bring out at night? I don't know. So is it a directed energy weapon? Is this what's used to target UFOs, to interfere with their propulsion system, to bring them down to the ground, which is what our military source said? Now, another theory is maybe they are what's called waveguides. So a waveguide is like a metal tube that you fire microwaves down. So if they were waveguides, then you're talking much higher frequencies, and you'd have some sort of magnetron maybe under the ground. I'm just hypothesizing here. I do not know what this facility is, but I'm putting out the information so the technical people can watch this and then tell me what this is. I'm not going to jump in with both feet and say, look, I told you this is what they're shooting UFOs down with, because I don't know that it is. But this is what our military source said, and it's not a Trident communication system. Okay, as I've said, these might not be aerials. There could be supports for something else. And they do run, they have been running GPS jamming exercises up there. So this, between the 15th and 26th of August, what they've done, they install some equipment which is just 2.3 miles from this facility. And what this does is it stops GPS systems from working, like if you've got a drone or whatever. But I've been told that the reason why they do this is when the troops are on exercises and they're doing map reading or whatever, some of them will cheat. They'll carry a GPS thing around with them so they can cheat. So the military jam GPS. So there's possibly just a straightforward explanation why they've got jamming systems up there. So if anyone's got any information, please do forward it to me, and I'll be very interested to hear what you've got to say. Okay, now, just to summarize and finish tonight's talk, some of this information is very confusing because you say, well, it looks like they faked certain of the moon landings. But Richard, in one of your previous talks, you were talking about the TR-3B, which is this incredible vehicle that can go really, really fast and go to other planets. So how does that match with the moon landings being faked? And also the Mars rover missions being faked? Because in a previous Rich Planet show, we've suggested that some of the lunar and Mars orbiters may have filmed ruins on the surface. So Cydonia on Mars. We've also got the testimony of Carl Wolf, who said that there was ruins or buildings on the far side of the moon. So how does it all hang together? And we've also got the UFO mystery, which is still very much a mystery. Now, in order to try and attempt to explain all of this evidence, I'm going to throw in another theory, which is called the constraints of Gaia. Anyone heard of this? Constraints of Gaia theory states that all life on Earth is in some way connected to the Earth. We're all part of the Earth, either electromagnetically or through some other means, and that if you leave the Earth after you get past a certain distance, you will cease to be. You cannot go further than a certain distance. You will lose your marbles, or your heart will stop, or what have you. That there's some sort of constraint that is some sort of physical or electromagnetic constraint within all life on the Earth. We're part of the planet. That's the theory of the constraints of Gaia. The theory goes that NASA discovered this in their space missions as they got further away from the Earth, and they've been working on how to get around it. So they need to build a simulator to simulate the Earth to take with them, perhaps. So I'm going to summarize, and I'm going to give you a hypothesis. This is just a hypothesis, and it might completely change next year if I get new evidence. But here's my stab at it.
I've updated the hypothesis since I've given this lecture, so I'll give you the up-to-date one. Advanced propulsion craft have been developed by man in secret and are being used on and around the Earth in secret up to a certain orbital height, i.e. within low Earth orbit. Space-based weapons, such as observed on 9/11, have also been developed. All this technology is classified. They are trying to solve the constraints of Gaia issue, which is another classified project. Once resolved, this will enable manned travel beyond low Earth orbit to other planets in craft already designed or built, not based on rockets. Photographs from unmanned Moon and Mars orbiters of ruins have shown other civilizations have been on the Moon and Mars before us, but this is classified. Advanced ancient knowledge of all kinds of technology has been discovered in many archaeological finds on the Earth of previously advanced civilizations. Where possible, this has been classified. To help conceal all these classified projects, a semi-fake space program continues, which includes the commercial space program. The UFO phenomenon has provided some astonishing new knowledge, and this knowledge is classified. The knowledge includes information about human origins, energy, and propulsion. It includes information on the purpose of mutilations and abductions. Some UFOs appear to involve consciousness and as yet undefined physics. NATO have been actively targeting and acquiring UFO technology without public knowledge.
Here's Tom with the weather. Okay, that's it, folks. But do remember, believe none of what you hear, including from me, and only half of what you see. I'm Richard D. Hall. Good night. Thank you. Thank you.